Hello, my lovelies. Well, I've got a very special guest who we haven't seen for a while tonight, who was shunted off YouTube for what he was putting in his videos about situations around the world. But today we're going to be talking about a lot of things, but mainly about the situation in Ireland because I'm fascinated and have a love of Ireland because my mama's parents and family all came from County Wicklow, Greystones. So I've always been fascinated and very proud of my Irish heritage. So when I see what's happening there, I take an interest and we're going to discuss it today because it's very, very worrying what's going on in Ireland at the moment. But I'll introduce you to our Ronan, our narrative destroyer. And there we go. So anyway, how you doing, Ronan?
And I'm absolutely fantastic. I hope you're doing well too. There's a lot to speak about tonight, a lot to talk about in regards to England and Ireland. But I'll say this: congratulations to yourself for still being here, for actually still doing the YouTube videos. I thought you would have given this up a long time ago, but you're still here plugging through, and congratulations for sticking that out.
Oh, I took a break. I did take a break because it was like, oh, well, I was busy anyway, working on helping me mate. Well, someone I know anyway, work on a book which should be getting published soon. And it was like all my time was taken up. But I wouldn't mind Ronan. I told him, I said, you get, I said, I'm not going to get any money. I don't think he'll get any money from me. You know, it's like when people self-publish books, they don't tend to make much money out of them. So,
Yeah, the book publishers are just absolutely scandalous. When
yeah.
people actually find out about that, everybody's got this dream of writing a book, publishing a book, and then you find out how much they take from you from actually for doing that, and then getting it on the shelf and then promoting it. It's just it's like a lot. You may as well, you've got more chance of winning the lottery. But listen, just stick at it, and I'm sure it'll be successful.
Well, I think it's something that needs to be said because he was talking about it to me. It's all about it's sort of changed track. Like I believe they can do books. It started off as one thing and sort of went further, but it was originally supposed to be about the policing in Britain at the moment, especially under Starmer. But it's sort of branched right out, and now it's become a book about Starmer's disaster. That's all that you can call it.
I'll
And
read that.
so,
I'll
oh,
I'll definitely buy that.
it is. I mean, he's very well. I must admit, I did make a couple of. I mean, Ronan, I did make a couple of suggestions. That
Yeah,
got
of
into
course.
the book, and I also made a couple of suggestions. Get that out the book. Get that
Yeah,
out
yeah,
the book.
yeah, yeah.
Because I just knew it would cause an absolute kick off if we put some things in it. But
Hmm.
should be getting released. I reckon it's only got a couple of months to go. But he wants to keep it until the anniversary of when he was first voted in. But I said, no, get out there beforehand. But anyway, enough about that. So, anyway, let us know because twice you were on YouTube, weren't you, and got kicked off.
Yeah.
What happened over that?
So I'll just let people know. Right now, I like predominantly just operate on X and TikTok, and I do various topics, but mainly stuff to do with Ireland because there's political corruption just absolutely destroying this country from the left and the right. But my Holden official channel, I think I've explained this before, but I'll just go over this again. I got taken down for medical misinformation. I'm not going to go through that here, what it got taken down for, because it might hurt your channel. It wasn't medical misinformation. And because of that, I created another channel and it was even more successful but it was more Irish based stuff talking about politics. But they done me for circumvention, trickery and deception, saying, look, basically, once once you're deleted from YouTube, you're never allowed to create another channel again. So you've circumvented the situation, hence why we'll have to take this one off you. But I find out that's the biggest load of bullshit because there's loads of people with like quadruple channels and they've been taken down multiple times, and they just really do it to people that aren't really desirable, the certain topics that they're speaking about. So I also had a TikTok with 15,000 followers taken down. It was really growing fast. I was averaging like 100,000 views per video. I created another one, but now I'm being censored. So thank God for X, because where I'm not the biggest person on X, but I'm still able to put out the message without being hindered or censored. So X right now is the place to be, X, formerly known as Twitter. So that's where I would try to get everybody to go to is X.
Yeah, it's this you have to be you have to learn to talk in code, don't you? And I find that. But people do, as you say. But if you read what happened, I noticed this, and I thought this is bizarre. People who had the channel terminated. You want to look out for this, Ronan. Found out this happened to Bobby. You know, Uncle Bobby.
Mm-hmm.
He had his channel taken down. And first he blamed me, which it wasn't me. I said to him, it wasn't me. I said, didn't have to, Bobby, because you were coming out with words that the algorithm was going to latch onto. So I knew you were going to lose your channel sooner or later. Well, his channel suddenly appeared with all the followers back. And it happened to someone else as well, said, my channel's just suddenly appeared. That was deleted months ago. It's just, for some reason, people were getting the channels back. So you want to look for that. So
There is no love lost between me and YouTube. I even contacted the CEO, Neil Mohan of YouTube. I've contacted countless people on Google. They understood the situation, even though it was a small account. It actually went quite high up in the sense of where I wasn't even expecting that. I know I'm nothing special, but so I just spent my days now trolling Neil Mohan on X, and there's nothing he can do about it. And it's a sinking ship.
Wait a minute, Rowan. Just gotta say something because there's a person in here. You know, he's after me. He's after me. He can't stop. You know, drooling over me and fantasizing over me.
Yeah.
Banter JDP. Oh, I've got to let the news out. Did you know that the swine actually, so we could get some clicks and views, he actually reported Brett May to the police and has had him recalled to prison? Isn't that terrible? He had him. Who's deleted what? What did he say? I've deleted. What did you say, Kelsey? Sorry about this, Ronan, but yeah.
No, you're fine.
Yeah.
You're fine.
Get the news out there. JDP reported Brett May to the police to try and get some clicks and views on his channel.
Is that true?
Anyway, Ronan.
I don't know anymore, and I'm not on that side of YouTube.
I ever put out slanderous gossip about anyone? Would I?
Definitely not.
No,
definitely not.
Never.
Definitely
Never. Yeah, he's just. I just have to put up with this. I'm used to it. You know, I'm used to men sort of becoming bunny boilers around me, fascinated by me. But there we go. But anyway, carry on, Ronan.
Yeah. So essentially, you know, I'm so happy that X exists, Rumble exists, and platforms like this, because what's happening to England? Your audience is going to be predominantly from England, and what the people from England need to know is that what's happening to you guys is happening to us, but what's happening to us is happening within a 6 to 7 year period. But with you, it's been since the 70s.
Yeah.
So we have seen a rapid increase in migration, illegal and legal migration, over the past 7 years, to the point now Little Ireland is taking in 500 Indians per week legally. So not only do I need to crack down on illegal immigration, which is terrible, the human trafficking. I'm sure you've watched some of my videos in regards to human trafficking, human trafficking gangs. But the legal immigration is decimating the culture in Ireland. Now this, you know, what people need, they always say, this type of rhetoric is like loyalist, like the UDA or the UVF or, you know, British loyalism in the north here. What you need to understand is this: I respect all cultures. If I go to India, I want to visit the Indian culture. The same with Africa, China, all the continents and all the country. It seems like Western countries are the only countries where if you say, listen, I want to preserve my heritage and my culture, you're considered a far-right racist bigot, and that's wrong. That's not the case. So we're on a trajectory, Ireland, to be, say, in the next 20 to 40 years, but people say a lot sooner, to be absolutely erased culturally and religiously. And this has all been done under the guise of Marxism, destroying the country, ripping through our country and destroying it. And
see, what gets me, though, Ronan, this just to put my thoughts on this. I saw it happening, and it suddenly seemed to come out of nowhere. And especially because I know this Ancient Man, because I used to go there, especially when I was younger, because my mother's family were from there. And I know what it's like. It's a lot of it is rural, and it's very much a definite identity. It's a culture and identity that's all Ireland of its own. You can even see the differences in it's different parts have their own different identities and cultures as well. But when you see it there, this is what I don't think English people understand. It's our situation, but amplified, much, much more serious because you're talking about little villages, basically what we call villages, where there's not many people there in these little. What would you call them, Ronan? What's the word for them in Ireland? Wait, no way. It's you'll get about 200 people, or
They're not even villages. They don't even have a
yeah,
shop or an off
that's what I
license or
mean.
anything. So let me explain that one, right, for the audience to understand this. So this is everything I say can be researched, right? You can do your own research to prove that this isn't misinformation, right? And make it easy for people to research this themselves. In Dundrum, in the Republic of Ireland, there's many Dundrums in Ireland, but in the Republic of Ireland, this little town has a population of 200 people or so, give or take, right? I think it's a little bit more, but I'm going to say roughly about 200 people. I think it's maybe 220. The Irish government is trying to implant 270 migrants from the Middle East and Africa, which would literally dwarf the population. Now, most of these people are elderly. It's like an old people's town. Now, this is happening all over with massive IPAS migrant centres like in Clonskea, in Clonmel, in Cork, in Donegal. And whenever you speak about this, you're called a far-right racist bigot from certain people online. People are afraid to speak about this. Now, I've done my research. The Irish state in the first 9 months, this is Ireland, this is the little tiny island of Ireland, the Irish state spent 1.43 billion on housing refugees and asylum seekers. While there is autistic children in our country that don't have a place in school. They don't have transport. The roads are going to shit. Now, this is a situation happening north and south. But this is they're exhausting public funds and 60 million euro per day on welfare. That's the dough going to foreign nationals and refugees and asylum seekers. So what's happening to us is Marxism. It's destroying us from the inside out, while big, fat, greedy landlords, excuse my language, are pocketing this. So you've got far-left communists doing the bidding for extreme capitalists. And I would ask the audience to work that one out for yourself.
Yeah, I'll read something here. Kenny Dalglish has pulled you up on this. Can you explain how, and be careful what words you use to explain it, Ronan? Can you explain how Marxism has anything to do with it? Don't just throw around theories. Now, this is it to say that it's. I find that a difficult one myself. That it's Marxist. I've heard you saying this before, but being careful how you actually phrase things and just explain your theory why you think it's Marxism.
So, in my opinion, what's happening here, not just to Ireland but to Europe, is the central control of everything in your life. The controlling of your movements via green energy, the controlling of your medical decisions with Unified Patent Court, which actually the UK is a member of and Ireland is joining soon. The controlling of your psychology with the prescriptions given out to people, the antidepressants. I'm not saying all the time. I'm sure there's people that need them, but the over prescribing of these and the antipsychotics. I know lots of people that are prescribed these and they've got nothing wrong with them, in my opinion. There's other ways of fixing them. So it's the central control of everything in your life, what you spend. So, the sort of like a credit score. Well, you're not going to get this much this week because you've been a bad boy, or you're going to lose your job if you don't toe the line. Now, these are things that we're seeing happening with the hate crime laws, hate speech laws, criminally prosecuting people because they have certain speech. Now, whenever you have a government that is exhausting public funds to look after a populace that isn't from that resident country, what you're witnessing there is an invasion. So we are technically being invaded, but this is happening from within. And this is straight from the Communist Handbook. Now, there is people out there that say, well, listen, communism's a good thing. Okay, you can have your viewpoints on communism and Marxism and on all those things, but what we're witnessing today from the people like People Before Profit, and in some regards Sinn Féin, which has destroyed me. I was a big Shinner all my life. Now I can't go near them. I vote for Aontú because Aontú is non-woke Republican Party. They are looking for more control of your life. They want to sell out completely to Europe, that are decimating European countries with migration, with controlling people with green energy, controlling people, their movements with green energy, controlling people, their medical decisions with the Unified Patent Court, and everything like that. Feminism is a big one too, you need to understand. So while our population is decreasing, our native population is decreasing, our foreign national population is increasing. And that's, feminism is also a Marxist weapon.
Oh,
So
that's a bit of a strong statement, isn't it, Ronan? That's very strong.
You need to read the book.
But how could feminism be a Marxist thing?
So, not all feminism. So I have to really state this. When it comes to feminism, there's good sides to feminism. Like there's good sides to everything, but the expectations of what a man should be today, the expectation of what a woman should be today,
that's not feminism.
Well, that's linked in with it. That's, if you look at any of the modern day feminists, like one of the biggest ones in Ireland, Sarah, she doesn't show her face, but she's got an account on X. I see all of her stuff, and she is one of the biggest feminists in Ireland. And she agrees with the narrative that men are just useless pieces of shit. Now, this is said to young men. With me, it doesn't bother me. I've got a wife, I've got a life, I've built that for myself. But I could only imagine what it would be like to be a young man.
Are they going to listen to it though, Ronan? That's it. I mean, I don't think young men sit down thinking, "Oh my God, a feminist has said that was loads of crap," or a feminist said, "I must believe." I think it's.
Sorry, so I think it's crept into the culture a little bit. I didn't believe it myself until I seen, especially the things that are being promoted in regards to woke culture, transgenderism. It's basically, we all accept everybody. I don't want anybody to be persecuted. I think that everybody should have the same rights regardless of your sexuality or how you identify. But this is being promoted, especially against autistic people. I don't know if you've noticed that. It's mainly in the autistic community. And
I think what it is, I'll just jump in there because that's important as well, Ronan. I think what it is that you find a lot of people, and I said this a long time ago, knowing people were going on at me thinking that I'm transgender, if they want to carry on thinking I'm transgender, let them. But I said to them at one point, and that's an important thing to say, a lot, and I noticed this myself from the communities, a lot of people who are transgender are actually on the autistic scale. So when they're actually skitting and jeering trans people, they're mocking people who have autism a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's an important fact that there seems to be a link between the two. Not always, but there does seem to be a link.
Well, just to actually answer the question that the commenter wrote there, is that everything that I'm speaking about here in regards to all the different movements are all linked in with the Marxist movement to completely eradicate everything that socially, financially, the economy, everything, for the central control of everything in your life. And this should be apparent now after the sniffles, after 2019, right up until now, that this is the plan. It's not that, this could be the plan. This is what they're trying to do. And this is why things are very confusing. And I would actually urge people to read the book from Emmett Connor, The Global Marxist Cult. And he's an Irish guy, and he's broke it down. He does tours all around the United States of America, and he's spreading the awareness of what's happening in Ireland. Now, I say this to people. You don't have to believe me. Do your own research. You'll see it. It's infiltrated feminism. It's infiltrated the LGBTQ. It's infiltrated our schools. This is infiltrated everywhere. That's why they're trying to eradicate. Well, not eradicate. Sorry, that's the wrong word. But that's why they're trying to flip from Christianity to Islam, because under Christianity, like it or hate it, Christianity, in this sense, in the modern sense, with the separation from church and state, breeds a free society, and everything that we know today is built on the foundations of Christianity in the West, with a sprinkle of paganism, I have to add. Now, the only way to control people is to remove that and have a heavy Islamic doctrine which controls people.
But let's ask you this, though. If feminism is involved, this is where it starts to break up in my mind, your theory, Ronan. If feminism is part of this great thing, why the hell would a feminist want to be involved in something where they know a theology is going to take the rights away?
It's actually a term called secular progressivism, where the host nation, especially the progressives, the secular progressives, will adopt anything that eradicates the thing that their society was built on, even if it means their own demise. And we're noticing this across, well, the United States noticed this, hence why they voted Donald Trump. Love him or hate him, he's got some good points, he's got some bad points, but they've seen this. They saw this within their institutions. This is happening in Europe. We're seeing a rise in the right wing that are trying to fight against this. And in regards to feminism, I would go as far to say that feminism is the base of the Marxist movement, because they understand that men solely work and do things in their life driven by sex. There's no other reason why we do anything, men, is to procreate and to have women. That's a man's existence to a certain degree. So that is the base of the Marxist system, and it always has been. But I have to really state this: I'm not against some feminism. Women, there should be strong women, like Irish women. I come from Ireland, that are the strongest women that have ever existed. They could raise a family by themselves and still work a job. That is the true epitome of what a woman is, like a real strong lady. So I'm not against that, but I'm talking about the Marxist seed within feminism has destroyed the psyche of a lot of females within the West, and especially Ireland.
But I can't get, I'm really struggling to get this. What has it destroyed in the psyche of women? What has been taken away from women that you think is a bad thing?
Well, not taken away. I don't think anything's been taken away. Well, culturally taken away. Nothing's been taken away from a man or a woman, right? But there's this rhetoric that, especially in Ireland, I don't know about England, there's this rhetoric within sort of social circles that men are always bad, especially white males. White males are going to harm you. And that's not the case. Now, I'm sure that it is the case in some instances, but it's not the case always. So this type of rhetoric has been adopted by the feminists, which in turn, over the years, we've noticed a decline in our population, where, with among other things, with the likes of the price, the cost of living, it's harder to have children or to have multiple children. We're noticing a decline in our native population. And in my opinion, that is the baseline of their extinctionists. And these, but you have to, not feminists are extinctionists, but the people driving this in the background, which we'll speak about in a little minute.
Now, this is the thing I want to ask you about this, because I've had this out with someone before. I can't remember who it was who said to him, this no theory of extinctionism. You say it better than me, I can't even pronounce it. But if they're trying to get to the situation where then people become more or less, the native population will become extinct as it is, why are they trying to replace it with something where, let's talk about Ireland here, because I'm old enough to remember when Ireland was still very traditional in the South, very traditional. And then suddenly women, decided they wanted to, it wasn't staying at home, having 12 kids and, looking after a husband and all this business. They weren't homely. They wanted to be equal to it. Well, actually, well before me, because it was the Second World War that liberated a lot of Irish women, a hell of a lot, because they went to join the British forces and they seen what being independent was like. But in my view, what happened was women became, if this is the right word, much, much more promiscuous, especially in Southern Ireland, because it wasn't so much the shame and the embarrassment of, oh my God, a woman actually enjoying doing it, where that was a sin. And in some places, still considered a sin. But I think they've got more chance of getting up the duff now than they ever did in the past.
Yeah, and by the way, I'm not here to say, oh, we must merge the church and state to control women. Under no circumstances, as I'm saying that, I will fight for anybody's rights. If rights are going to get taken away from somebody, I'm there. I'm going to be fighting for an individual's rights. What it is, I get what you're saying. There should be actually an increase in the population, but then that is countered by the cost of living. So they make things incredibly hard for the native population to have a big family, for the women who want to be traditional, or maybe for the women that don't want to be traditional but still want to have a big family. And they make it hard for that while giving the incentives to the non-native population. We're seeing that. I've actually, just before we started this, I watched the video, and it's just a very small example, but there's many that I can choose from, of where Muslims that have came here, that are in our schools, children, are giving priority over everything in regards to the schooling system, even when it comes to eating, especially around Ramadan, where children who were not Muslim had to sit and wait and watch the Muslim children eat the pizza because it was at the end of Ramadan and they had the first digs at that. And that's what we're seeing, and that it goes into every walk of life in regards to financial things, giving houses out to non-Irish, mainly Muslims. And what's happening? Our women, our men, our young people are saying, we can't deal with this. So they're going off across the world themselves, to the likes of Australia. There's 100,000 Irish in Australia. And this is what people need to realize. I'm not against immigration.
Oh, no, you're not, Ronan.
I'm not anti-immigration. But
what is...
Yeah.
It's the same as I was just saying before when we started. Ireland, more than England, has got a definite culture and a definite, what's the word, indigenous population, more so than England has, because England has been more or less a melting pot for a long time, as you said, much, much longer than Ireland. So you see it. You do see the change, and the change is coming too quickly. It's just an iron fist coming down. But what do you think of this? Because this is what shocked me. Sinn Féin. I can't believe the way Sinn Féin are carrying on. Weren't these the ones that wanted the English House and still want the English House in Northern Ireland? And, be independent and all this. The Irish, National Irish, they're fighting for the Irish. And they're just absolutely well behind all this happening.
And I have to add too, it's not just the Sinn Féin issue. We're seeing this also in the unionist side of things with the DUP, that are linked in with organizations like Hope Not Hate. So these old organizations that once sort of fought for the union, fought for nationalism, if you're Sinn Féin are not an Irish nationalist party, they're an Irish internationalist party. They are 100% sold out to the globalists within Europe. They've sold us out. I'm an Irish nationalist myself. I don't like racism. I don't like bigotry of any of or anything like that. But what I will say is, you cannot claim to be an Irish nationalist and have open borders and exhausting public funds to look after everybody else apart from the Irish citizens. And you can't be a unionist. This is to the unionists too, because they, I get this in the comment section. Well, become a loyalist, mate. They'll say, I goes, no, your organizations are linked in with Hope Not Hate. They hate anything that is Irish. They hate Irish things too. We've got loyalists and unionists here trying to stop the Irish Language Act coming in and stop Irish signs being put up all across the north here, which is absolutely disgusting. And I'm trying to warn people, we've allowed another entity into this island, a Marxist entity that also wants to destroy everything Irish and have the concept of globalism, no borders, where anybody can just come in here unvetted. into this beautiful island and do whatever they want.
But do you think, though, this is it? Do you really think, Ronan, that Sinn Féin? I mean, maybe I could see it in Sinn Féin, but do you think all the other parties there actually wouldn't be intelligent enough to know that it was Marxism trying to control them, and they'd just have none of it?
Sinn Féin right now have adopted the Marxist.
I can
communist
understand them
ideology.
doing it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I can understand
and
them doing it.
alliance. Also, you have to understand alliance, and to understand the sort of the unionist side of thing, they're not too bright on. So the unionists, not the loyalists, but the unionist side of thing, connected to the loyalism, sort of the pro-British organisations here in the north, they're not the brightest. They're always played. Sinn Féin can play them like a fiddle. So they're not a threat to Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin laughs at these people. They're always 10 steps ahead of them. So they don't know their arse from their elbow. Unfortunately, I have to say that. It's always good to have good option regardless of where you are. It's good to, it's good. It's not good for the country whenever you have idiots on one side. You want a good opposition. Now, within the Republic of Ireland, you've got Sinn Féin also that are supposed to be the opposition. And if you call a man or a woman, Sinn Féin, Mary Lou MacDonald will call you a transphobic bigot.
Oh, I saw that. Wasn't it? It was going around X today, actually, funny enough. Talk about topical. There's some fella from Sinn Féin, isn't it? He's saying a trans woman is a woman, and it's like people are commenting on X at the moment.
No, if you want me to explain that to you, so you've got a guy in, I forget his name, but you got this guy in Sinn Féin in the Republic of Ireland who came out and who agreed with the Supreme Court ruling within England, the UK, that the legal definition is down to biology. So if you are born a man, you're biologically a man, and you cannot legally call yourself anything else, and vice versa, and everything in between. And he agreed with that. And now, because of that, Sinn Féin have put pressure on him. And because Mary Lou MacDonald within the Republic of Ireland, I think she has a trans person in her family.
Is that the blonde woman? Is she
blonde?
No,
small, stocky, dark-haired woman.
Oh,
and she's the leader of Sinn Féin within the Republic of Ireland. And you're talking about Michelle O'Neill in the north. She's the leader of Sinn Féin in the north. So Sinn Féin 100% put pressure on him. And then he came out and retracted his statement and says, I don't agree with that, and trans women are women. Now, I have to say this. I don't care how you identify. A trans woman is a biological male. And there's nothing that anybody can do about that. I can identify as a woman, and Anne can respect that. Anne can identify as a helicopter, and I will respect that. But I'm not going to teach school children that that's biology, because we like to work on fact, don't we? And actually, if you look at your situation, and if you don't mind me saying this, there's, you get a lot of stick, people calling you, terrible names in regards to, thinking that you're transgender, and you're not. And I've seen some of your stuff on X, and you're totally 100% correct. And it takes people like yourself that are involved in that world with their own bracket of things to come out and speak out about this. We're seeing this all over. You've seen that crazy person on X, Molly or something, that everything is, if you go against anything to do with the transgender movement, you are the worst person in the world. So to stay on topic, Sinn Féin are 100% a Marxist organization designed right now they're an Irish international organization working solely for the globalists within the EU that are not Irish nationalists. And into Pater Toibin is the real Republican Party, North and South, that are non-woke for protecting Ireland, its borders, taking the financial incentives away, housing these migrants and all the welfare that's given to them, and pumping that back into our society. So I would support Pater Toibin and Into.
Well, Kenny's got a question about the church. Ronan, genuine question. What's happened to Catholicism in Ireland in terms of church attendance?
Well, because of the Catholic Church, the scandal within the Catholic Church, people don't like talking about this, but I like telling the facts on this. I've had family members affected because of the scandals within the Catholic Church. I'm not going to name their names. They were affected by it, by priests. And I only recently found out about this. and distant family members, but people we would have been close to. And a lot of people in Ireland were abused by priests. Now, here's the thing. That has pushed people away from the Catholic Church, but recently there has been a resurgence. Now, the Catholic Church, what people need to know is it was Catholics that called that out. People like me, I don't know if you're a Catholic, Anne, but people, people within the Catholic Church. Yeah, but we would call it, because we have a bar. We're not going to allow Speedos, I'm going to say it for your show, Speedos, but you know what I'm talking about, to infiltrate in our society. We will outcast them, and we want nothing to do with them, regardless if it's secular or religious. So people need to know that. The reason why the Catholic Church was outed was down to other Catholics investigating it, right?
And they had a hard job doing it, didn't they, Ronan? Got abused by people. Yeah.
A lot of people were murdered. A lot of people were assassinated. Still to this day, there's people being assassinated because of the links in with certain other organizations. So that's why people moved away from the Catholic Church. Now, there is a resurgence back because people have realized that actually the priests themselves, whoever they, and God love the priests that weren't involved in this, because there's some really good priests that I know that say, listen, this is, it was a worldwide thing, but actually it's got nothing to do with us. And people have realized that we are actually being religiously taken over by Islam. They have looked at the two doctrines and they've said, well, look, at least under Christianity, I can live freer than, say, Islam. Because if there is an Islamic revolution, like there was in Iran, the women will have no rights. We will not be able to be secular. We will be stoned and whipped on the street if we allow this. Just look at some parts of London where white people can't even walk. I can't wear a crucifix around my neck in some parts of England. I will be targeted, religiously targeted. So,
would you though, Ronan?
Yeah. Well, I
haven't noticed that here. I mean, I know people go on, but I've never known. But I personally haven't seen it or heard of a Muslim going up to someone because they're wearing a cross and kicking off.
London, you would. London. I know. I'm not going to mention the girl's name. She'll probably be watching this because she watches your stuff. I haven't spoken to her in a couple of months, and hopefully she's watching this here. She told me a story that she can't walk through certain parts of London, or she's spat at because she's showing skin. They're not Sharia zones. Legally, they're not Sharia zones. And, it's a heavy Islamic area. Now, that isn't me coming out saying here I'm a Zionist and I agree with everything what's happening in Israel and Palestine, because I don't. I don't like what's happening to the Palestinians and the settlers in the West Bank. That's not me saying that. I've got sympathy for everybody. You need to understand there's differences within Islam, the Sunnis and the Shiites. I laugh whenever I say that because it sounds like I'm saying Shiite, but I'm not. But the Sunnis and the Shiites, I think that's how you say it.
Yeah.
And there's some of them that are a little bit more lenient than others. So people need to know that there's good people and bad people in every society. But we have radicals. Recently within the Republic of Ireland, there's the biggest mosque in Ireland, was found to have links to the Muslim Brotherhood, which is a banned organization within Islamic countries that has links, is linked to terrorism and is considered a terrorist organization. So my theory is that if you are a terrorist and you wanted to have a base somewhere in Europe, Ireland would probably be the best place to go to, because the government doesn't give a fuck. They want a religious change. There is, exemptions given to these people. And in my opinion, people have seen this. People who were once secular and not religious, like myself, have seen this and have came back to the church and have realized that it wasn't the priests. Sorry, it wasn't Catholicism. It was the priests. And yes.
Ronan, I think it was Catholicism. I think it was they did a good job of covering it up, didn't they? So they
I'm talking about the for instance, this is what I mean by that. And you're 100% correct, by the way. What I mean by that is that to be a Catholic, it's not about the church itself, right? Just like if you're a Protestant or you're a Hindu, it's not about the church itself. It's about the message of it. And a lot of people have realized that we're not going to swap one evil for another. There's nowhere in the Bible does it say for you to go out and do this. This was evil, what was happening to these children, not just in Ireland. France was one of the biggest ones, South America, and all across Europe. That was terrible what happened. But that wasn't the message that done that. That was evil people that done those things. And once we got over that, we're seeing now, we did get over it a little bit here, we're seeing a resurgence of Christianity within the land in a good way, in a very
It's
good way. That's what I mean.
but I remember my memory of Catholicism in Ireland itself, and especially from my cousins when you used to hear from them, my uncle and all that. My uncle, he was a Catholic, yeah, but he had no time for the institution itself. And
Yeah.
the message I got that the Christian brothers, who were the ones that used to be the teachers, that the boys didn't need the teachers, they were brutal. They were
Yeah.
brutal, and so could the nuns. Because my mama used to tell me she went to a convent school, a day convent school. She'd go to the convent school of a day, then go home of an evening. And she used to tell me things. I think, my God, that's sadistic. That's not just being a nun, being of the time, being harsh. It's sadistic. But I daren't say that to her, because if I turned around and said to her, "Oh, horrible cow, weren't they doing things like that?" She'd turn on me and go, "Don't you call those women, they were nuns and all this." You couldn't slag them off. But brutes, they were brutes, Ronan. I
We
don't know
have
what
the
they're like
control.
now.
We have the control now, Anne. Back
Mm,
then, it was the total merge of church and state, which allowed extreme corruption on all
yeah.
ends to take over this island and within England and across the world. What we're seeing today is a better system of we have control. We
Mm,
have control, and there's no priest or there's no Vatican or there's no head that's going to tell us that this is the way you should live, because we know the word, regardless if you're secular or you're religious. And that's what I'm trying to say. We have full control of that now. And what I'm trying to say to people is the point that we're at in our life right now is the best, because we're moving into another merge here. And this is a merge of state and mosque. And this is happening, and people are going to laugh at me, but this is happening all across the world, Islamic revolutions. And if you look at the people in Iran, they're telling us, please don't do it. There is people in Iran, they can't say it, but they're
oh
not,
yeah.
so this is, we want to always my belief in anything shouldn't trump your life. So just because I'm a Catholic shouldn't mean that you have to be a Catholic. And that's what people need to realize.
Yeah.
And if we are not lucky and we don't get our heads screwed on here in the West, there's going to be a merge of state and mosque. And if it's going to completely decimate the country. Just look at Iran, just look at certain parts of the Middle East. And this isn't me hating on Islam, because Islam is a beautiful thing too. But we have to be very, very careful about the next 20 years, or there's no going back. We can vote our way into communism, but we cannot vote our way out of it. That's the difference.
I don't know. You keep. I think you. This is the only thing I'm so struggling with, Ronan. Is you seem to be putting a lot of F's on this about communism. You sound like McCarthyite.
But
Everything's communist.
Islam's another side of that. So the Islam would be you see, within, let me make everything I'm speaking about today, right? When it comes to the social issues, this is all linked in with the new world order, globalist, communist future, digital IDs, no money, cashless society, social credit score, restriction of movements, blah, 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 and religious change. And what the globalists have realized, and I actually want to touch on who the globalists are, because people keep calling them the Jews and they're not. But the where we're going with this here, right, is the religious side of this. They've realized, the globalists have seen this. Well, people cannot defect from Islam because there's nowhere you can go on earth. People who leave Islam and speak badly about Islam, like they should be able to do in a free society, are targeted by Islam and Muslims, right? So the governments have realized that this is a doctrine and a weapon that they can use to control the population, because if they adopt Islam and eradicate Christianity in all its forms, then that is another tool to control the populace. And that, what I mean, is connected into communism, the communist new world order future.
But aren't the communists usually
Secular.
Secular, yeah. I can't see why they'd get one, replace one
We're
with
not
another
talking about
hand in hand.
communism, say the Soviet Union. We're talking about the Klaus Schwab. We're talking, even though he's retired now, right? But I'll just use him as an example. But we're talking about the future that these globalists have for the West is a communistic bubble, right? It's maybe different from other forms of it, but they will have full religious change from Christianity to Islam. They will have restriction of your movements with green energy, digital IDs, social credit scores. We're already seeing a socialistic credit score at the minute where if you have certain political opinions, it's just I'm self-employed, so I can say whatever the fuck I want. And they go after people in jobs, and they want to get rid of the self-employed too. They want everybody sort of an Amazon driver where you have to toe the line, controlling what you eat. Look at our food. Just look, I'm just going to say it for the people that are watching this, just look up into the skies, what they're spraying in our skies. I don't really speak about that an awful lot because it's too much, but what they're spraying in our skies, what they're putting in our food, this is all population control, eradicating the native population, in my opinion. I have to say, everything I'm speaking about is my opinion, and the communistic new world order globalist future. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but I've seen this progress for over the past 10 years now. Then, the sniffles came in.
What about Ronan, the First World War, right? If you went back in time to the First World War and what happened during that and afterwards, and we went into the Second World War and all the business and the creation of a Europe and all this, you could put your theory onto them as well and say that this is a sinister plot because it was actually worse back then. It was much, much worse back then. So I think what is when this upheaval and you try to put a plan on there, sometimes it might be that you're trying to make sense of something that's happening. And it might not be that it's a plan as such. I mean, I think there's something going on. There's definitely something going on because if they wanted to stop migrants, they could stop them. There's no doubt about it. It would be easy. They could stop them. So they're allowing it. And I agree they're allowing it. But I think sometimes to try and put rationale behind it, that's all this world order and all that can get a bit confusing. But I just want to, Kenny asked something that made an interesting point. Wasn't Jesus a communist? I wouldn't say he was a communist, but wasn't Jesus? Lots of people have said this, a socialist. If
He's
he was around today, he'd be a socialist.
Yeah, he'd be a socialist. And I wouldn't consider myself a full capitalist. I totally understand the socialistic standpoint. The only problem is with socialism is that it's like baby communism. It leads to that. It leads to more tyranny. It actually leads to authoritarianism because you have people that are, that have control of your money and where that goes to, the spread of wealth. But I would agree on the humanistic standpoint of Jesus, of course, 100%, that the word of God is to, feed the hungry. He said it himself. You are the snake. This is the synagogue of Satan. You preach. You don't practice what you preach. You are terrible people. I would agree with his standpoint. I'm not a full capitalist, but I do believe that all of us having access to a free market is the best way to go. Within communism, you don't have that. It's the governments that have access to that market, and you work for them as the little bees, the good working bees. Socialism, it's a little bit different, but it does lead to authoritarianism in the end, unfortunately. But if we could get a grip, if we could put something in maybe a new constitution that controls that and inhibits authoritarianism, then we would definitely have a better future with a socialistic type system.
You see, it's I don't know. I don't think any system is perfect and will work, perfectly. Communism has never worked, that's for sure. Capitalism has its major problems as well, that's for sure. But between the two, capitalism is the safest to be with because you have more freedoms in capitalism than you do in communism. But but that's interesting that in Jesus' question, because I've heard that said before, he would have been a socialist if he was around today. And also, he wasn't, when you think of it, Ronan, the message he was given, because there's nothing people don't realize, the person who actually mentions this meek and mild Jesus isn't quite the full story. He wasn't meek and mild. He wasn't, because the person who talks about the damnations and tortures of hell more than anyone else in the Bible was Jesus. So wouldn't he have been a totalitarian person?
To God, yes. To the, they say, the sort of the religious dogma is the only way to heaven, and
Mm.
I'm a believer in that. I lived a life that was very secular, always diving into my, my feelings and what makes me feel good and things like that, and adopting that religious dogma has helped me. But I'm not saying that does that with everything, with everybody else. It might not help anybody, that. But I get what he meant by that, and you could take that as authoritarian, but that is the word of God. And what we're also taught, that is, men, people are evil, and when given power, we will corrupt that power. So when that power is given solely to God, it cannot be corrupted because it comes from
But
the
you're
pure.
talking like the Islamists now. You're
Of
just
course, I'm.
replacing that's
I, yeah, 100%. I agree with some of the Islamic points and how they do it, but I just think that, if you know about Islam, a lot of it's based on known forgeries, like the Gospel of
so
Barnabas.
is the Bible.
Well, not known forgeries, but can historically depict. And
It was mistranslated. The know that the books of the New Testament weren't written at the time they claimed to be written, and certainly weren't written by one person. It was messed
of
about with.
course, no, I agree, I
So
agree. And if
that's
you
it.
read, I
Oh,
agree that there's definitely, and we always, but the thing about it is we always have to be open minded towards that and do our research. Hence why I watch a lot of people like Wes Huff that are historians in this, that have dedicated their lives to the Bible and to religion, to religious history. And whenever you listen to Wes, but actually anybody that wants to know more about this, go listen to Wes Huff. He absolutely obliterated Billy Carson and the fraud that he is. He obliterated him, and he has spoken about this. I don't claim to be an expert in this,
expert on it.
so
Yeah.
I would be good with the arguments. But what I would
But
say is,
Ronan, Ronan,
pardon.
Ronan. That's what I always say to people. I say, if you want to, you have to become an expert, because there's nothing more, I'd imagine, if you believe in the soul, which I like to believe that it's what. No, what's the point of going through this bleeding hole if there's nothing at the end of it? But if you're going to barter with anything or put anything on the line, especially your soul, you best become an expert in what you
Oh
say
no,
you're
listen,
devoting to.
I'm my whole viewpoint, or my whole sort of structure on content, isn't based on religion. I'm open to ideas. I'm open to listen to other people's ideas, and I never sit here and say that I know fully that everything that I speak about religiously is the truth. I will listen to others.
Mm.
So this is why I've got respect for other religions, even Islam, the Abrahamic religions. I do have respect for them, and I try to learn more. It's more about, in regards to myself, it's about the religious doctrine and how it controls and
Mm.
how society functions with it. Not take away the biblical aspects to it. I'm talking about solely, if you look at Islamic culture compared to Christian culture, yes, there's wrongs and there's rights on both ends. However, it's we can people say, well, the only reason Christian culture thrived is because it's colonial and we stole all the things from other good countries. Well, if that's the case, then we're living in 2025 where everybody has access to near enough the same thing, and we're still seeing tribes all across Africa kill each other. So
Mm.
they have the ability to stop doing that, but they don't do that. And there's no colonial powers within Africa. Well, there is still some saying within the South Africa, but we're seeing the rise in them taking that back, and we're seeing still a regression in these societies. So I don't put it down to us being thieves and colonial white people, big bad white men. What I've noticed is that under Christianity, for whatever reason, whether you believe it to be biblical or secular, or maybe just an ideological reason, that under Christianity, a society does thrive.
Does it?
Well, just look at our society.
It, only once people started giving up the strict doctrines. That's all the only way. Because if you look at the past, I mean, don't forget, if you're looking at Catholicism, which is relevant to Ireland, or even Protestantism, if you look at it, these were totalitarian dogmas they were, and theologies, which was destruction. Look what Henry VIII did to the monasteries and all that. Look what the Vatican did. It was go out, and the Spanish. I don't know why people keep on saying white, because it wasn't just white people that went out and they did it. It was a lot of dominance and forcing people into giving up their cultures. Exactly what the Islamists are getting accused of
Yeah,
now is
and
how the
exactly what I
Christians
disagree
got
with.
away.
I totally 100%. If you look what happened in South America, it's absolutely disgusting what happened to those indigenous people. I don't agree with that either. But I would also say that we're all, even Islam, Judaism, the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, have had their bad points over the past 100 years. We'll acknowledge the bad points, but would we have excelled as much under Islam?
Do you know,
That's the question.
this is the tragedy about Islam, because we actually look at the history of the Muslim world. They were actually the leaders in progress, and they were the leaders in science and all this. They were great minds, some absolutely great minds within the
Algebra, I believe, was created by a Muslim. Wasn't
they were
algebra or
absolutely. They actually went much further than the Catholic Church would dare to, because the Catholic Church would have executed someone for some of the things that the Muslims did.
but
Then
sorry,
somehow,
just to say, but is that the truth though? Because was it
yeah,
not the Vatican that went into the sciences first?
no, what it was, they eventually did, but there was a lot of. Don't forget, if you're talking about communism, my God, that was worse than any communism. The early Catholic Church, they did. Let's put it this way: they did believe in inquiries and stuff like that, and you can say that they were the ones that were quick to adopt the. How can I put it? Who was that fella? I don't know. Do you know his name? I've forgotten his name. Who was that one that seemed to be way ahead of his time, and he was banned by the Catholic Church? He
Padre
seemed to.
Pio?
No, God, no, way before him. You're talking about centuries ago. And he understood that the universe was infinite before the concept of a universe was even thought of. And he knew all this. Someone in the chat will know. Oh, God, he used to come out with these statements about man is not the only one. And he actually twigged, this is like medieval days, that there were other planets and there could be people on other planets,
He
aliens.
wasn't. I'm just going to go out here. I know. I don't think this person was a Catholic. I think this person was an actual Jew. It wasn't Nostradamus, was it?
No, oh God,
No.
Nostradamus was fraud. Anyway, let's.
Galileo.
No, it wasn't Galileo. It was before him. Anyway,
and you're a historian. You're an historian. We're too stupid for you.
Hey, well, let's say I'll get his name. Let's see. Oh, I know his name. The man who the church with the Catholics, Vatican, banned for knowing about the universe. He wouldn't shut up. In other words, saying it when they told him.
But he was right. He was
right. He was well. Bruno. Giordano Bruno. I'll get that and put in the Giordano.
Only you would know that, Anne. Only you would know that.
Now, fascinating. Get the chance, read up to him. He was, God, talk about being way, way, way ahead of time. But I always said about Giorgio Bruno, he more or less was his own fool, because the Catholic Church, he actually was in England at one point, caused absolutely havoc in hell in England with the things he was saying. But the Vatican kept on saying, yeah, all right, just don't stop saying it in public, stop saying it. And they gave him chance after chance, but he wouldn't stop it. So they would actually let him just carry on. And that was the way with the Catholic Church. It became, at first, it was brutal. Greed, really, for money. And that's what it was, and power and all that. But then they got to the state where it was like, just don't say it too loud and we'll tolerate it, because they more or less believed the things themselves, but they couldn't say it publicly that they believed it. So that's but yeah, look into him, people, and he was way, way, way ahead of his time.
This is the thing, though. We have these characters throughout the Abrahamic religions, Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, and things like this, that really did go against the grain.
Mm.
in regards to the dogma, the religious dogma, and these people need to be healed. But what I'm trying to say is, in regards to all of this, I'm happy that there is a separation from church and state. That is needed. The state should not be connected to the church, because there is people out there that are
Mm.
secular. If you want to be religious, you be religious. I'm not here saying you need to be Catholic. I'm not a Nick Fuentes coming out here
Yeah.
saying the only way is is to be a Catholic nationalist, a total merge of no. If you're a lady watching this, a man watching this, and you're none of those things, listen, you have a right to be whatever you want. This is the thing, as long as it's legal. What I'm trying to, all my argument is that I feel in the modern sense of things, of course, in our past, especially Catholicism has caused a lot of hurt and pain, especially within South America and places like this. But in the modern sense of things today, with our separation from church and state and the balance that we have in regards to our godly people to our secular people, if we throw an imbalance into that, as in, say, a heavy doctrine like Islam, which we've seen that evolve into sort of a more, a more control-based religion, if you just look at Iran, that's going to be turmoil for our society. And I'm here saying, look, I'm fighting for the seculars. Actually, I might disagree with some LGBTQ rhetoric, but I'm here fighting to make sure that that stays in place for the future, because we shouldn't bring in another religious doctrine that inhibits all these secular things. I
Yeah, well,
would be, that's my viewpoint in all of this. And that, in my opinion, is connected to the New World Order. Whenever I say communism, people always go back to, like, the 1800s. This is the modern sense of communism, the globalist vision for the future. That's what I mean, not the old sense, the new sense of communism, which is globalism.
I think what it is, it's as well. I was going to ask you something, right? Because I was having this debate yesterday. Because I've always said this, don't buy it. You know that not all Muslim women do it. Let's be fair, it's rare in this country to see. The niqab, the covering
The,
up the
the,
face.
the hijab or the burqa, there's
The
two of them.
niqab, isn't it? The one where they have the eyes shown. I think it's called niqab, isn't it? I'm sure it is. They only have their eyes shown. They have to veil across the face.
Yeah,
Now you hear this. Oh, it's empowering to women. It's empowers and all this.
I know.
And I was saying, I said, don't buy your crap. I said, I've heard this so many times before. I don't care what anyone says, and any women in the chat, if you agree with me. That is so. I am owned by a man, and only my man, my owner, can see my face. And also, it's a hell of a lot of narcissism involved in it, thinking that if a man sees your face, he'll automatically want to do it with you. But I don't like. Be honest and say no. This is a symbol of us belong to men, and it was a Jewish thing actually. Originally, it was a Hebrew thing. It wasn't. It was out around before Islam even became a thing.
Be
But
careful, Anne. Be careful, because they're watching this. Because
well,
if you get into those realms, that's all I'm saying. Is I've been doing a lot of research into a lot of stuff in regards to what you're talking about here,
yeah,
and its connections to certain stuff, and it is really conspiratorial stuff. But in regards to your channel, see, when you talk about Judaism,
yeah.
the covering, even Catholicism in the covering, and if you look at, say, Islam today, and you look at all the different sects of Islam, especially Lev Tahor, research that one for anybody's watching. Lev Tahor, these are crazy things to research. So just it's a dark topic.
Oh, I see. So let's get off that subject.
No, you can still speak about it, but when the Jewish question arises,
Oh, I get
it,
you.
but this isn't me. This isn't me hating on Israel, by the way, because I believe Israel has a right to exist, and I also believe that Palestine has a right to exist. I'm for a two-state solution or a one-state solution where everybody lives in harmony, but that's not going to happen. See, that's where I come. I come from the neutral, humanistic standpoint of things, where you've got these idiots on either side going, but there is, if you look at, say, going right back to the 1900s, the gold standard to the Federal Reserve, which we'll not speak about, there is everything leading up today is sort of, with the whack jobs that are on X, they would say that this is all an elaborate plan.
See, Ronan, I say we should all do what the Buddha said, right? We should all, and not turn the Buddha into a god, because the Buddha wasn't a god. He'd be horrified to see big statues of himself and people praying to them, you'd be horrified. But as I always say, that what he said at the end of the day was, don't give a shit. Excuse my French, but it's true. Don't give a shit. Just get on with life. Get on with it. Don't go worrying. Because when anyone used to ask him about whether there was a God, he'd give them the answer that the opposite to what they thought. If they said, "Can you confirm that there's a God?" and he knew that they believed in a God, he'd say, "No, there's no God." And if they turned around and they didn't believe in God, they were an atheist, and said, "Can you confirm there's no God?" He'd turn around and say, "Yes, there is a God." He'd give them the two clashing ideals. And someone asked him, one of his followers said, "Why do you do that?" They said, "Why do you say to one person, yet there is a God, then no, there isn't a God?" It said, "What are you doing?" And he said, "Oh, it keeps them questioning, doesn't it?"
Well,
And
yeah,
he's
that's
what
quite
is
interesting. That sort of not pandering, but sort of becoming a yes man for either side. Just on that one, right? The reason why I believe in a God, and it's simple. Whenever I speak to scientists, they tell me about 20 to 30 trillion years ago, because it's went back even further, there was the Big Bang. It wasn't 4 billion years ago. It's now 20 to 30 billion, sorry, not trillion, billion years ago.
really
Uh, Something the size of a pinhead exploded, which created everything that we know today.
mm.
And that is the scientific theory based on some facts. It's not a hypothesis. Now, you've got that. And then on this side, you've got a creator that has created all of this, the universe and everything that's in it. And in my opinion, it's more crazy to believe that something from the size of a pinhead created all of this. It's more plausible to think that we actually have a creator. It's actually crazy to think this one. That's my whole viewpoint in all of this. Plus, there's a lot of other, nuanced things that goes into it, like are ghosts real, demons, demon mythology, and people just having sort of supernatural experiences. People believe in evil, but they don't believe in good. Oh, there's demons following me. I'm getting bit by demons. I'm plagued by demons. I'm possessed. There's ghosts in my house. Do you believe in God? No. It
I
doesn't make
know.
sense.
My mama used to say that, shit. How can you believe in the devil and evil and things like that and ghosts? And she'd say, then turn around and say, "I don't believe in God." She used to say exactly the same thing.
Yeah, it just doesn't make sense.
You
It doesn't
can't
make sense.
believe in one and not the other. You can't say you believe in the devil or Satan, then not God, because the two of them sort of go hand in hand. You've got to believe in both of them for the
Yep.
other one to exist.
Yep.
But yeah, I think what it is, it's each their own. Personally, I don't believe in the creator God. I don't. I like to think that there's a. I say, like, think we don't know. We're presuming that it might be better. What comes afterwards, it might not be better. It might be worse than being here. You don't know. But I do like the. But I don't say Buddhists, because a lot of Buddhists don't actually follow what the Buddha actually said. But to me, the Buddha, he was more or less, and he wasn't a god. He wasn't a god. He was just a person who was considered to be enlightened. If he was, I don't know. But I just liked his idea. He wouldn't talk about what came after we die, because he used to say, "No, concentrate what you're doing here. Don't worry about what you'll find out what's over there when you get over there. You don't have to go worrying about it. Worry about get through this, get this right, and then you'll be okay. You don't need to worry about what's coming."
As
But
long
go
as long as a religion isn't forcing people to do something, I have no issue with it.
on.
If you are a Buddhist and you're not forcing women to wear certain things, or they're getting stoned to death, oh, this person's showing ankles, so we're going to stone this person to death, I have no issue. If you want to live, there's Catholics that still cover, and that's their choice. And they always bring up the question, well, sure, nuns have, that is a choice, that is a religious lifestyle. They don't actually have to dress like that. They can leave
Oh
the
yeah,
nunnery anytime they want.
yeah. That's it. There's a lot of myths about nuns, and
And
people are shocked to hear that nuns can actually be women who were married and had children. They can do. You can become a nun after you've been married and have
well, there
a
you go. There
yeah.
you go. So that's what I'm trying to say. And I don't listen. I respect Muslim countries. I think Muslim countries should stay Muslim countries. I think all those countries, if anybody ever tries to have regime change or religious change, that should stop. I will fight
Oh
with
yeah,
Muslims to keep them Muslim countries. But these are Christian countries, Ireland and Britain. Europe is a Christian continent, and Britain is a Christian country, and it needs to stay Christian. And if that isn't respected, then that is an act of war, in my opinion, and not an act of war because it's targeting Jesus, an act of war because it's targeting our Christian values in the sense that some may disagree, but we do get our sort of moral code from that.
Hmm. Oh,
And
whether we do in the West. I mean, whether you're
yeah,
actually a Christian or not, you'll find your moral basis is based in that. It
yeah,
is.
yeah.
So you can't
Hence
escape
why
it.
if you go to Muslim countries, there's good and bad points about that, and there's good and bad points. Like for
Mm,
instance, Islamic countries, you don't really get interest rates. Do you know what I mean? That's another conspiracy theory that we're just not going to speak about today because the control mechanism of an interest rate,
mm,
right? But you get what I'm saying. That's a good thing about a Muslim country. They're very good. If you go to a lot of the like the UAE recognizes the Muslim Brotherhood as a terrorist organization. That's the UAE, and a lot of
mm.
them also do that. So, listen, I've got respect for everybody, but I will call out the hypocrisies and I call
Oh, I
the
do as
degradation,
well.
the
I
degradation
do.
of our society and the infiltration of our society. And there is more extremists in England and possibly Ireland than there is in the Middle East right now, I would say.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. I mean, it is. I'd say, but watching Ireland, I mean, it is for me. It's difficult to watch because I say I've got connections there, and I always say when I used to go, oh, I haven't been for ages, Ron. I'll have to go over again because that's where I had my mama's body flown over to her hometown to have it buried there.
Anytime you're over, and give us a call, and I'm from the north here, so I'll be able
Yeah.
to take you around Belfast. But Dublin's not too far away on a train or something. You take you
Yeah.
around Dublin, all the
Because
places.
I'll have to go over there and fit a grave, I will. But it's really because I remember it, and I always felt connected. I used to always say this when I go back to Greystones, even though it was very sparse and few between. I was too busy studying here to be able to go there. But I always felt like there's this connection there, no, like a spiritual connection. And I used to
Mhm.
always say, "Have I been here before? Was I actually born here previously?" Because I used to always get that feeling. But now seeing another thing as well, Ronan, I don't know about Belfast. I dare say it's the same, but everywhere was so clean. I can never remember litter round Greystones. I can't remember it, and there wouldn't be loads of litter bins. People would take the litter home with them and dump it in the bins.
Yep.
But I'm seeing now, and Dublin was like that, if I remember rightly, there wasn't litter everywhere. Now seeing it, it's a tip. It's
Well,
absolutely tragic. It is.
well, I'll say listen. I'll get into the stories here. I've covered the protests. I've been attacked by Antifa. I've seen the migrant tent cities in Dublin. I've seen the rise in foreign national homelessness in Ireland, north and south. And I've interviewed a lot of people. I know a lot of people in the game. And there is a regression in our society. Now, back in the day, if I had a littered, I would have been battered. I'm not going to
Mm.
lie to you. I would have got a good clip around the ear, so I knew not to litter.
Yeah.
And there's people come over here they would visit from different countries, and I would be friends with them. And maybe they would drop a chewing gum, they would drop something on the ground. I say, don't do that because
Mm.
that's not what we do. But it's because they see everybody else doing it. Monkey see, monkey do. So
But
what we've
that's
got in the Republic of Ireland, well, the homeless crisis in Ireland, north and south, is booming, right?
mm,
Cost of living, hashtag, that is the number one reason, right? Number two is that there's people coming over here and they are professional beggars. So you've got the Roma community putting out their people onto the streets to professionally beg, so that it gives off the illusion that there is more homeless. That's
yeah.
another reason. Number three is that the human trafficking aspect to this. Ireland right now is complicit in the human trafficking of vulnerable children, men and women, for all types of reasons, labor, sexual, exploitation and things like that. These people are then used, abused, and thrown out onto the street. We're seeing them in tents. Even with this migration crisis coming in off the planes, Aer Lingus is finding 40 to 100 passports. I think it's every 2 weeks or every week or something in their bins. People coming in on a passport and then ripping it up before they go out the doors, because if they claim refugee or asylum status, they're given everything. And these people are then, if they don't accept the house, then they're going out onto the street with a trespass tent. This is the invasion of Ireland sponsored by Trespass, I always say, because you see them all got trespass tents. And this is causing a massive influx onto the streets, which is causing basically slums across the city.
Yeah. It's horrific. It's horrific.
And just, I wish I had some footage to show you. I should have been better prepared today, or I would have shared it to the screen. Just type in Tent City Dublin onto YouTube, TikTok, and you will see it. It's crazy. And my own experience with this, Anne, I've got a friend from just outside Dublin. She's a good Christian lady. She's a very religious person. And we meet up with my other friend whenever we go to the protests. She hasn't been the past couple of times because she's more focused on her Christian lifestyle. But the first time we met up, we met at the Busaris bus station in Dublin. I said, listen, make a long story short, I said, listen, I'm just going to the toilet here. I came back out again to be met with my lady friend here that was approached by somebody in the tents. An African man came out of the tents, approached her and was going to grab her. It was only for my other friend there. He intervened and stopped it. That was us 15 minutes within Dublin City.
Oh,
and yeah. So if that happened to me, happened to her, happened to all of us within 15 minutes of being there, imagine what happens on a day-to-day basis. Now, that's not saying that there isn't our own scumbags, Anne. Because Dublin and cities, we've got our own scumbags. But how are we supposed to get a grip on drugs, crime, and everything that's bad if we have open borders and basically allowing international trafficking and criminal gangs to operate on this island with impunity?
Well, I remember another famous thing about Ireland. I say Greystones again. You could walk middle of the night, and I'm talking about middle of the night. I got used to hate it when I had to do it, because there'd be about one bus a day. That's what it used to be like there. And there was this place called Church Road. I used to have to get from one place to another, and I used to be terrified going up this Church Road in Ronan, because it was dark. It was a big long lane. It was dark, and I'd be like, there'd be avenues going off here, there, and I'd be like, I'm not looking. Big dark avenues, I'm not looking. Scariest thing ever at night. But you could do that, nothing would happen. And this is true. Swear down, this is true. People actually had the keys glued into the locks in the door so they wouldn't lose them. So anyone could open the door, day or night, anyone.
Yeah.
That's how safe it was.
Not anymore.
Not anymore.
All stopped.
No,
even
not
the
anymore.
little town that I'm close to right now, I'll not say its name, but there's a Sinn Féin office on. And right across the road from a Sinn Féin office, which it faces, is a brothel, i.e. a human trafficking centre, where vulnerable women are exploited for sexual favours. Sinn Féin know about this and do absolutely nothing about it. And this operates solely on the basis of open borders. So there's evilness within this country. There is a terrible evilness within this country that needs to be stamped out. You know, fortunately for ourselves, we're good, strong people here in Ireland. We're not going to take it. We're not racist. I don't judge anybody because of the colour of their skin. I support immigration, but it has to be an Australian-based system where we bring in the best for for sectors that's needed. And instead of having, you see, what people need to understand is Ireland signed an agreement with the European Union. It was the EU Immigration Pact, which in this EU Immigration Pact said that Ireland must take in 30,000 asylum seekers and refugees per year. If they go under that and they don't take in 30,000, for everyone that they don't take in, they have to pay €20,000 a head, up to the 30,000. If they go over the 30,000, they get brownie points. So there is a financial incentive to bring more people in because of the corrupt system within Brussels. And this is what we're pointing at here. It's totally 100% a corrupt system. And there's nothing in this EU Immigration Pact that says Ireland must bring in people from all around the world that is needed within the public and private sector. So more doctors, nurses, more people for this sector, brickies or whatever for the infrastructure. Ireland is also going through a housing crisis. To get on the property ladder, you need to have an immense amount of money. And guess what? There is young people going for houses in Ireland, and in front of them is 10, 20 foreign nationals that will be incentivized over the Irish native.
Oh yeah, and
This
it was
needs to stop.
always if I remember, housing was am I getting this the right way around? Yeah, it was because remember my mum's house where she was brought up was with a bloody packet, and that was a bungalow, and the housing was always expensive, very very expensive in some parts of Ireland, very
Mhm.
expensive to get a house was like double, triple to what you'd have to pay over here. But yet I hate that because wasn't there somewhere where there were houses went up and every single one of them went, and there was one, oh
Yep.
God, this got me wrong. I thought, right, that's it. I'm going to get on the next thing, you'll cat over to Dublin, rip up my passport when I go there, start talking a foreign accent because they were given, oh God, these beautiful bungalows, white bungalows, prestige. And I'm not talking about bungalow attached to a bungalow, they were all detached, would cost you, oh God, I'd hate to think how many hundreds of thousands it would cost you. They were just, here we are, moving there. And they were asking one of these migrants, the people to one you here, do you want to move? No, I don't want to move. I thought, oh, but you don't want to move, mate. I thought, bleeding hell, I wouldn't. But I think I might try. A beautiful house. And it was like,
I always
thinking,
said it. Rock
oh,
up on a rock up on a dinghy boat and talk in a different accent and say that you're fleeing persecution. But guess here's the irony in it all, Anne. I might move to the United States and claim asylum. Hopefully, ICE don't deport me and say that I'm fleeing political persecution
yeah,
in my own land
I
because we
want to
have
do that.
people in prison right now across England and Ireland for political speech because they haven't towed the line and they have flew too close to the sun and they've got burnt. And listen, I have to say this, right? I disagree with Tommy Robinson on
Mm.
loyalism. I'm an Irish nationalist for United Ireland, but I would agree with him on a lot of things. You have Axel Rudakubana, who butchered children in England outside Liverpool and Southport
Yeah,
and tried to kill more, try to murder more. This guy recently has thrown hot water over a
yeah,
screw in one of the prisons, able
yeah.
to just walk around freely, no, with impunity, with just walk around with his arms swinging
No, he
around
didn't.
all his
What
like-minded
happened?
people.
No, he didn't have. He couldn't walk around without impunity. What it was, the fella, the prison guard, opened the latch in the door,
Yeah.
and he threw the boiling water. Was waiting for him and threw the boiling water at his face as he opened the latch. So it's not like he was walking around with a kettle in his hand. He had
All
a
right, maybe I
kettle,
got that
which is
part wrong then. But you get what I'm saying.
yeah, I
He
know what you
seems
mean.
to have more freedoms, or he seemed, just in
Oh
my
yeah,
opinion, I could be wrong. I could be totally wrong, and hopefully I am wrong. Hopefully this guy is having the worst time ever. Because I want to get
yeah.
into your opinion in just a little minute. Because you were 100% correct on X.
Hmm.
However, you've got a guy Tommy Robinson in prison on a civil case, not criminal,
Yeah,
for contempt of court. Regardless, I think it's bullshit. I think he showed legitimate evidence to prove that should have been
yeah.
a retrial on that. But regardless, that's for a different topic. But he's on a civil case on 23-hour lockup, mentally torturing him on a civil case. So this guy Tommy Robinson, who I disagree with on a lot in regards to loyalism, is being politically persecuted and treated worse than a child murderer.
I think what it is, I mean, yeah, the Tommy Robinson situation. I was saying this, the justice system is just absolutely ridiculous. But Tommy Robinson, yeah, should he have done that? My personal view is to me, I watched the video that I got in trouble over, and he proved what he was saying. To me, I couldn't see what was so horrendous or what was so libelous about he was saying. I couldn't see it at all. So there definitely is a attempt there to keep him quiet. But what they'll say is, this is what they'll say, that they have to keep him in isolation because he said it himself. That's the Islamist Muslim gangsters in the prison safe itself who want to take him out, who would definitely want to take him out. So they'll use that excuse. But also, there's another thing. Tommy Robinson has to take it on his shoulders what he did. He knew what he was going to happen. He said he knew what was going to happen, and he did it. So he did it. He put himself in that position. Now it's to me, I say he shouldn't be in there. That's my personal view. He shouldn't be in there, but he was told that that would happen, and he went ahead and did it. So,
The Starmer regime came after him. Yeah, and you were right. He was told that that was going to happen. In my opinion, put the guy on tag and house arrest. There's people out there that have done a lot worse than that's. Put him on house arrest. The guy doesn't need to be in prison. He's not a threat to the public like a lot of the the Islamists and terrorists that they've allowed into the country. And these people are allowed to just walk about and do whatever they want. So that would be my opinion. He didn't even need to go to prison. This is a very corrupt system that we're living in. Listen, I've spoken.
Corrupt, yeah.
I've had the pleasure of speaking face to face with Isra Levant, his friend, and he's a good guy. And I just said to him recently, "Is there anything that any scoop that you can give me here? Like what's going on in the background?" And he says, the situation is so transparent. They're just trying to kill him. That's what they're trying to do. They know that he's got a right to not be in general population because of the seriousness of the Islamists. But he goes, think about it this way: England is that bad that an Englishman can't go to his own prison because foreigners are trying to kill him. That's how bad the situation is. Where there's not even a group within his own prison that will protect him, because it's solely ran by these Muslim brotherhoods.
Yeah, that's what we know now. But the thing is, Ronan, we're getting to know all this now, where before we didn't know this. In the UK now, this is becoming a hot debated issue. Thankfully to GB News. I'm not a big fan of GB News, I'm not, but you need something like that to actually put the news out there that other places aren't. Now, the press are picking up on this as well, the way it's being run, and it is being run by these groups. Now, of course, there's injustice. Look, people are being put into prison for, just the views. There's a difference between stirring up hate, which has to be challenged. It does have to be challenged. But there's a difference between going out and stirring up hate and giving a viewpoint, like saying, don't build any more mosques, don't let migrants in and all this, don't do that. That's not stirring up hate, that's a viewpoint. But it's just it seems to be all crashing and falling, and once the judiciary stops working, you're in serious trouble. You're in serious, and you can see
it stopped working.
It has stopped working.
It has stopped working, yeah.
Because you're seeing people getting away with things, and they're saying now that they're going to close a loophole up in the European courts where a judge can decide not to deport someone, which they shouldn't have that decision to have. Well, I suppose they need it, but the reasons they're given are stupid. No, we need to get out of the ECHR. We have to get out of it. It's not working, and I've said this for years, and people are horrified when I said that, because they think, oh, Wokan thinks we should get out of it. I said it for a long time. It doesn't work for what it's supposed to work for. It doesn't. It's a criminal's charter. That's all it is. And it allows people who should be sent away from a country, sent back to where they came from, because the criminals and doing whatever, it stops them. They get the priority, and we need to get out of it, not amend it, not close the loophole up, get out of it. That's when you'll cure the situation.
100%. Yeah, I totally agree with you. And I have to say this, I'm sure you've seen X today. Keir Starmer has done a complete U-turn on immigration. Now, what people need to realize, right? And this is a good thing. People are, are downing it, saying, oh, well, we can't trust any of the Labour. Listen, I'm no Tory. I've never really liked the Tories. You're a Liverpoolian. I'm sure you're not a Tory either. You're not a Conservative, right? So we can see things from a rational view here. He is so scared of Reform UK, and he is breaking it. Now, the promises that he has offered here, he might keep half of them, but he's saying this to grab the vote because he realizes that the gig is up. right now, England still has a chance because it's still, I do believe it's still like 88% sort of ethnically white, but I'm not sure if that's English. It could be a lot less than that. It could be even just 50% English. I'm not too sure. Could be wrong about those numbers. They still have a chance, and this is the last chance to vote these people out, because these are all Macron, Starmer, Canada. You've got I know the new one that Labour was put. Olivier or whatever. He didn't win it because he doesn't have work ethic. These Labour governments, they're not Labour. They're
No,
actually more
they're not.
conservative than anything that
Yeah.
you've ever seen. They want to conserve everything for the political class. And Labour used to once represent us. This
They're not
is not
Labour.
Labour. This
They're not
is
Labour.
an authoritarian rule. And they do not care about the workers. They do not care about the future. They care about the economy. They could probably care about the GDP. I get that, but they
don't know what they care about it in Ronan. They don't. They're stupid. They're thick. They're stupid. They're not intelligent people.
Yeah.
They're not. And at the end of the day, I'll say this because I'm passionate about this and so annoyed by this lot. I mean, I know people kick off. No way I'm as old as 60. I know I look younger, but I am 60 years old. So I've been through the Thatcher years. I've been through Edmund Wright. I remember Labour when Labour were a definite choice. The last time that happened was under Neil Kinnock. Then it all went a different shade of red and blue sort of merging together with each other, doesn't make green, doesn't make something like that. But there isn't a choice now. But what we've got here is the end. Let me stress this. This happened to the Liberals. Labour came in onto the scene 100 years ago. It's roughly about 100 years ago, say Labour came onto the political scene. The Liberals became defunct after that. Because it was always those two, the Conservatives and them. They became defunct. Now you are seeing Labour going the way they did, the defunct. In other words, the next big party is going to be between Conservatives and what's it called?
Reform.
And Conservative. You've suddenly seen Reform are the new. What's happening to Reform now is what happened to the Liberals, and now is happening to Labour. Labour are gone. I will never, ever, ever, as long as I am drawing breath in, I will never vote Labour again. And I was brought up to be Labour.
Same.
And I will never, as long as that man, and I can't stress this enough, and I'm saying this because the wisdom of my age, and I've been through many, many prime ministers, many in my lifetime. I can promise you people, this is the worst and most dangerous prime minister this country has ever had. We've had bad prime ministers, we've had incompetent ones, we've had ruthless ones like Margaret Thatcher could be ruthless. But one thing was, none of them have caused the devastation and the danger this fella has done. He is absolutely destroying this.
But here's a bit of a counter to that, Anne, right? And this is me just playing devil's advocate here. Did a lot not happen under the Tories? Like, for instance, a lot of this migration, a lot of this sort of weirdness in regards to the schooling system and where money goes to, did that not happen under the Tories also?
But see, the laugh of Boris Johnson now starting to speak up. Boris Johnson could have got a handle on things, and he didn't. He didn't. So it did happen. It was, if I remember back, I'm trying to go back now to who actually started it. But definitely 14 years of Conservatives didn't stop it and let it happen. And that's why I say I won't wipe off that there's some plan. Now, unlike you, Ronan, I don't think it's a big, Marxist theory, or I haven't looked into it enough to come to that conclusion there is. But definitely this is not a mistake. This is not a mistake. I'm sorry, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
During World War II, we could defend our borders. So you tell me now we can't defend our borders from people in dinghies when we could defend it from the Germans back then? I don't think so.
Well, you see that it all comes under the Geneva Convention, human rights, and the right to asylum. If you
Yeah,
look into the EU treaties, if you look into EU legislation, even though there was Brexit, Britain is still bound by a lot of
yeah,
these laws. So to
exactly.
set up Britain has a good navy. They could set up a perimeter around the coast of, say, France and its own shores, and say no, you're not getting in, and we're not obligated to let you in. Then that would execute a lot of things within the EU, which probably would uh, make a lot of court cases, and the prime minister then would have to go to European court and answer to his overlords, and that would be a lot of headaches. So in my opinion, here's one for people, right? We don't really need to worry about the dinghy boat boyos. We do, however, need to look at legal immigration, because we can get a control of the dinghy boat boyos, because you can have talks with France. Yes, there's a lot coming into the south of England, by the way,
You
that needs
tell
to
with
be.
France, don't even go down that
Yeah,
road.
it's bad.
France, France look like France. I don't know why we came to an agreement with them. France look down on the English as being nothing but idiots, and they've proven we are.
Yeah,
We are.
yeah.
They've
Yeah,
proven
and
that.
the French are listen. I love the French. I've got a lot, but what's happening? Listen, there's so many things that we could speak about in regards to France. That's a separate podcast in regards to France, because France is a lot to do with this. And you said that you don't know if it's an elaborate plan of people coming together. If this is like a sort of a systematic thing that's happening. Well, if you look at the behavior of Macron and Starmer together, these two boyos are the globalist elite. Now,
Isn't it?
whenever I say elite, there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people higher than them, but they are the foot soldiers of the future. And if you look at England and the way the voting system works with proportional representation, reform should already be in power. But because the system, it's a term I've created, hacked democracy, where England has solidified a two-party state. Now, obviously, yes, reform has came in here, and that is that's scary for the likes of Labour and the Tories. However, it is still a two-party state, and that's why you see the likes of the Conservatives trying to cling on to reform, or Starmer now doing what he's doing. But it really is a two-party state. If you look at
Yeah,
the way proportional representation works, where you could have me, I could be an independent, I could get all the votes, but because I'm only one seat, I have no power. And the person who gets less votes, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong about this, it's pretty hard to understand, but they have more people within that party.
yeah.
They will become the leading. They will the leader of that party will become prime minister because they have more seats. So it's literally down to funding. Who is funding you, and the amount of people that back your organization, not the singular vote of the singular man. And we need to bring it back to the singular man and woman, because independence will save England. Independence will save
You see,
Ireland. Right now, this two part,
I'll
even
tell you,
Reform UK. Nigel Farage is a toad. I don't trust him.
but I'll tell you something about proportional representation. It's not the great wonder that people think it is, and I talk about that from Italy, which you know well as well. It leads to very well. You've seen it in Northern Ireland. My God, you've seen it happening in Northern Ireland with this different parties suddenly shimmying up with each other and packing each other, doing shady deals with each other. But that's what it results in. You can get massive corruption happening because things are bought and all that. You see it in Italy, and that's what you've got to be careful of. It's not like, because you have to make the assumption that all the politicians involved on it aren't in it for themselves, which I think that's the problem with Labour. They're in it for themselves. They don't care what happens to this country as long as they become multi-millionaires, which Keir Starmer has done now. So I don't think proportional representation is necessarily the answer. But what you're seeing with Starmer now, and I say, honestly, I've never seen anything like it before. Ronan, never,
Can you
never.
lay out your points why you believe he is the worst? Because it's
Yes,
quite interesting why, because you're very passionate about this. I want to know, what is your exact opinion on what
I'm,
he's doing, what is his plan, and why is
I'm
he the
not
worst?
passionate. I'm not passionate. I'm annoyed. I'm
Hmm.
really raging because one, he's a liar. Not only is he a liar, his cabinets are liars, blatant, in your face, lied through the teeth to get into power, got into power, and now we're seeing that he's totally unsuitable for power. He can't read a room. And this is the thing in this book that my friend's written. He keeps on saying, can't read room. And it's true that he can't read the room. He came in, thought, and he wanted to be, this is the way I see it happened. He wanted to be a sort of like male version of Margaret Thatcher, her strength. I'll be the new Margaret Thatcher. But there was a big difference between Margaret Thatcher. Yet Margaret Thatcher was determined. She was like, well, the famous saying, you turn if you want to, the lady's not for turning. A famous line. But what it was, she always had a reason in her mind for doing it. She always knew where it was heading. Starmer is an idealist and he doesn't think things through. And he's destroying the country and he won't listen. What was his first thing he said when Reform got the victories? Instead of saying, which an intelligent prime minister would say, especially one in his position where he's low, would say, well, I'll have to go back to the drawing board and see what we'll have to start listening to people. No, we have to forge ahead more with what we're doing. You know, it's like I'm still not listening.
Listen, Jordan, I'm going to say, I totally get what you're saying,
Yeah.
but I actually think he played that good.
No.
And I'll tell you why, because he said something along the lines of, I'm not going to take the normal sort of route on. I'm paraphrasing here on what a prime minister would say. I'm going to congratulate them or something something along those lines. But the path that I have set out is the correct path, and this is the way we need to go. And I think that's the way. This is the tactful. He's very, very tactful. But another thing, and sorry to bring it back up again, Keir Starmer was in the Young Communist Club as a young man. So
but
he was a communist activist as a young man. This is what you need to know.
Oh, I know.
If you look at Macron, a similar type of character. Well, we don't really know too much about Macron when he's younger.
I'll have to look into it more, but you're not going to convince me during this that it's a big communist plan that's ahead. I know what you're saying, and I know you can get much stronger on it because we've had conversations in private, haven't we, on what's it called, Instagram, and you do have, it does get more and more in depth what you think, don't you? It can get very, very in depth, that you have to be careful about saying on here, because if you came out with it here, it would cause problems.
And what I will say is you can say a lot on here, right?
Yeah.
What I spoke about will definitely get you taken down, but we never spoke about any of those things tonight. You can come on here and criticize as long as you can. I have to say this: everything that I say can be backed up by evidence. All my TikTok videos, I think I do pretty well on TikTok, are backed up. The reason why they're able to stay up now and they're not getting taken down is because I provide TikTok with links, a description, where they can research all this themselves. The only difference is I never come onto TikTok and say it's an elaborate New World Order plan. But even then, that comes under opinion and freedom of speech, which we still have. You have the legal right to come out and say, I believe there is a cabal of individuals that are trying to push us towards a New World Order communist future. That will not get you restricted on YouTube. You're allowed to say that there's worse people on YouTube. But in my opinion, that would be the truth. I'm not saying it is the truth. And as long as you give that opinion and say it is an opinion and it's not a fact, you'll be 100% correct. 100% safe.
Right. Safe, no. But I'll start wrapping up. So I want to get some more questions in. So Ronan, getting off that subject, what you're talking about the universe before and the way it's created for living. What do you think about this idea, which is serious about a lot of scientists, that we are actually inside a humongous black hole?
I've never heard that one before, but I thought you were going to say simulation there, because definitely, listen, I think I'm in the Truman Show half the time. I go out and it's the same people every single day. I feel like I'm in the Truman Show, but a black hole, so it would make sense. We've got miniature black holes, or galaxies have black holes.
No, I mean, we're actually, the whole universe is in a black hole.
Well, I would say, you would have to even define that further, because what is a black hole? A black hole it's a void. Do you know what I mean? Not just the black. Well, it would be a void. It sucks in all light. And
sucks in stuff, but
it's
also
a void. It's like a black void, and nobody knows what the event horizon. Nobody knows what's by that event horizon. Possibly, I wouldn't be intelligent enough to actually break that down, but I'm sure that you know,
It's what they say. Go on.
the expansion. If you go by the established narrative, we've got a universe. We're told that from a pinhead exploded to everything that we see in our universe today, and it's still expanding. And they can measure this because they can still see the ripple effects of the expansion of our universe. So, are they trying to say that a black hole is like the ones at the center of our galaxy and the ones that are close to us are also smaller versions of that?
Well, what they're saying is, this is what they say. I don't fully understand it, but they say that if we were in a black hole, the universe, now it would have to, Christ, it would have to be one hell of a black hole, wouldn't it? But the expansion explains the expansion. And don't forget, they know, which is sad, no matter how advanced we become, we'll never get to see if there is an edge to the universe, because now it's going faster than the speed of light right at the edges. They're moving away that fast from us. If you were in a black hole looking up and looking out, that's exactly what you'd see, and speeding away from you at great speeds. How they work that out, I don't know, but that's what they say. But it's absolutely fascinating. But all that I'd say is, and they're getting theories now, aren't they, that they find things in the universe at the, what they call it, the edges, but it's no edges. It's not, the universe doesn't have an edge, does it? It's impossible for it to have an edge. But they're thinking there's remnants, and they think black holes actually may be the things that create and destroy universes. And it's not that it was just the pinhead exploded. There was something there before that exploded, like a black hole, just, and that was it.
100%. Yeah, 100%. I agree with that, and I think we're not too far off. Utilizing that power, understanding it through quantum physics, and actually not back engineering, but that's like alien technology. But understanding it a lot more and creating something that can actually utilize the power of a black hole, maybe even a wormhole. These things are all mathematically possible. Another thing I have to bring up too, I don't know if you heard about this, Anne, and I don't know if this is 100% correct. It isn't verified. I just flicked through the article today that they found a code within the human system. They were able to latch on a code, like a tracer within the human system. And allegedly, I have to add, a person died, and this code was still able to be traced after death, like a person's life. Don't ask me the ins and outs of it. I didn't look into it that in depth, and it could be the biggest pile of bullshit.
Yeah.
But allegedly, what has been found here is that this code was still active after an individual's death. And not only that, they found the code within another galaxy. It was traced to another galaxy.
No,
now, that could be the biggest pile of bullshit, I have to add.
I think it is somehow.
Probably. But I've got hope that we have scientifically proven that we go off to other galaxies after we die. Wouldn't that be beautiful?
Hey, this is it. How the ancient man, right, used to believe, some cultures anyway, that the planets, that's where your soul could go. You could be punished in them, like, so that when we have, if you've ever seen or heard of Dante's The Divine Comedy, the Inferno.
Dante's Inferno, yeah.
Yeah, well, that's the Divine Comedy. Now, in that, you have I think it's 7 hells, and you have the frozen hell, the fiery hell, the windy hell, and all this. When you think of Venus, though they wouldn't have known then that Venus was a fiery. They wouldn't have known that Jupiter and Uranus and all that were all windy places. But they used to believe that that's where your soul went to progress, so that you'd be either punished or whatever before you were saved and all this business. But anyway, I'll start winding up now. But interesting to end on that, because now I want you to say something, especially for my viewers. I want you to repeat after me. Like Simon Says.
Yeah.
So you've got to repeat this, right? Say, JDP got Brett May sent back to prison. He reported him to the cops. Say that sentence.
JDP got Brett May sent back to prison. He reported him to the cops.
Clip that, everyone. Clip it. Anyway.
Sorry, JDP. Sorry. Don't come after me. She made me do it.
Oh, God.
Blackmail here. There's, but yeah. I know JDP. I know JDP.
Well,
I
everyone
know
knows.
JDP. Do you know what? I'll have to say something about JDP, right? I don't really keep up to date. I only really keep up to date with yourself, Conroy and people like that, and Humble Dry. I know those two mad bastards are going to do a live soon. That'll be crazy. But JDP, fair play to him. At the end of the day, it's hard to get into this space and to actually, stay in it because it's mentally exhausting. So I don't mind JDP. Fair play to him.
Oh, as I say, he's playing the game, which if he's getting the money, get the money. That's what I say. But I
Yeah.
just wish he'd stop obsessing over me. I mean, he just, oh, God, I don't know, Ronan, other than actually wearing one of those coverings on my face, what do I do? I can't stop and
You should
fantasize
just
over what he
submit
does.
the JDP, wear a burqa, and say, "I am yours, JDP.
God,
I am here to do your bidding."
look, it would be like kissing Donkey out of Shrek. It would. It would be like snogging with Donkey out of Shrek. I don't fancy that much. But anyway, before I forget, my beautiful, I've got a moderator, don't you, called Kelsey.
Oh yes, Kelsey. I haven't listen. Sorry, guys. I haven't even been looking at the chat. I just focus on the conversation. I'll have a look at the chat now.
I mean, she causes me terrible trouble. She does. I mean, she's a worry. She's a worry. But here's for my lovely Kelsey. Yeah, fraternizing with strange women on YouTube, aren't you, Kelsey? Fraternizing with strange women. I won't have it. I won't have it at all. Anyway, so Ronan, thanks for coming on, and thanks to everyone in the chat because there were some good points. And so we'll have you on again. Definitely have you on again and talk about this situation because I say, it is, to me, it's horrible seeing what's going in Ireland, and I think it is worse than what we're seeing at the moment in the
Well, listen,
UK.
and I have to say this is the first live I've done. I don't do lives anymore, and I've actually I feel like I need to do more of them. So I'm going to jump on more lives with people because I'm a little bit rusty in regards to execution on actually being able to articulate things because I do everything on camera, pre-recorded for TikTok and for
Yeah,
X and stuff. So no, it's good because you challenged a couple of my ideas and made me think about things, and that's what it's about: open, healthy debate and finding out the truth. And the best idea rises to the top, and that's how things are done.
definitely. So anyway, Ronan, thank you again. And while I'm going to leave you with people, I'll have to get something on here, that I can leave people with because anyway, I'll leave you little my little roly dog. Here we are. The police are coming for us. The police are coming for us.